we want all of you to ask questions, so make sure to stand up, and if you have any, I'm gonna kick us off though, just because I don't usually get the opportunity to, hound my colleagues here on stage in front of 500 people. So as a learning company, which we very much are, I'd put the question out to all of you. What's one thing that you have learned this year? Whether it be through a mistake or an opportunity that you'd like to share with the audience.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at me. So I would say we made a big push international over the last couple of years. And while we've had a lot of success in selling new partnerships to companies all around the world, I think we underestimated just how hard it would be and how different it would be in some of these different countries that we're now operating in. And so it's one thing to hire salespeople in different markets, but it's another thing to then implement all those deals, find content partners that have local language support and all the other things that go with that. And so that would be, for me, it's just underestimating probably the amount of success that we'd have so quickly. So on the hindsight, I'd go international more faster and put more effort behind it, but we had to learn, and now we're catching up in some of those markets. Go ahead.
Well,
yeah.
I asked the question, don't look at me.
I think most companies in the earlier phases of their life cycle tend to dramatically overestimate the impact of competition or would-be competition. We do a pretty good job at minimizing that swirl and have historically, and a very good job, I think, at listening to our customers. I would have absolutely spent even less time thinking about the competition and spent all of that time really more so listening to our customers and disseminating that information back into every level of the company, not just those of us that get to talk to you on a daily basis. On the flip side, I would have invested more resources into helping the market sort through the emerging trends that were fueling the space and how everyone was uniquely different. I think if we had done a better job educating the market globally earlier on, it would have been a lot clearer for everybody sooner.
So I'm Kelly Palmer. I'm the Chief Learning Officer at Degreed, and I joined about 3 years ago, and I think one of the biggest things that I've learned on the journey since I joined is that we started out talking a lot about 3 years ago about the LXP, the Learner Experience Platform, and we've evolved, and we started talking about skills about a year and a half ago, and we're now talking about where the industry's going. We're kind of forward looking into what's happening, and I think one of the biggest things I've learned is that we're all on this journey, and we're all on different parts of this journey. So I think to step back and realize that we don't stop talking about the learner experience even as we're pivoting into skills, and that we really meet people where they are and talk about the whole journey and where everybody's is on that. So I think that's been a huge learning as I've traveled around talking to people.
Yeah, to piggyback a bit on Chris's answer, if I could do one thing different, it would be to start our client advisory board a few years earlier. So this is our 5th year of Lens and our 1st year of our client advisory board. I don't know that I would flip the two, but I would start it probably a couple years earlier. I think it would have impacted, or potentially impacted for me personally, pushing the business to make at least 1 or 2 other acquisitions, or potential acquisitions. So, but it's, you can never start that too soon as I look back on it to get the voice of the customer that amplified.
Awesome. So this is the time. You got all of us right here to ask us questions.
Hello? Oh, hey, I'm first. Okay, so 2 very quick things. First of all, I had my first I can't live without Degreed moment earlier today from one of our curators, and I was pretty excited about it. She was frustrated because we're still integrating partners and agents and other people that work. I'm sorry, Lori Greenberg with Verizon. It makes a little more sense. And she was disappointed that she couldn't use this pathway to share with that audience. And she's like, but everything I do is a pathway now. So it's become a fundamental part of what she does. That was a big achievement for us. The other is, hi Nate, we met rather awkwardly as he overheard us talking about the Degreed app. which for the most part worked beautifully. And lastly, my question, I love the new Harvard Spark material and the interface and what that looks like. Is that an indication of sort of the user experience to come that we can expect from other content and maybe even content that we add to the platform?
I'll take this one. So as the front door to all of that, we have a very important pact with content providers. We want and always desire to be the best partner that we possibly can. You've seen what the fruits of a great partnership can provide with an integration like Harvard Spark. The principles that guide, the integrations with partners is one, let's make sure that it is seamless to get access to that content. And also that the content is experienced in the way that that provider wants it and knows it will be delivered most efficiently. So those are the principles that guide us. What we are doing though is investing in the tooling that supports those providers. How can we be a better partner, both in terms of integration with the data points, but also the tooling that is available to them, so that they can control more of that experience, not just through API, but through their own portal into the platform as well. So we'll continue to make investments that enable them. Whether that results in a similar experience to Harvard Spark or not, depends on the partner. But the principles that guide us are, be a great partner, make sure that it is a seamless access, and then third, that they have the best experience with that content as they can, as deemed by the content provider.
Hi, Christina with Argo. Hey team, it's been a long time.
How's it going?
So managers dashboards, engaging managers and all of this, where are we?
It's me again.
All gonna be for you.
This is not rare that I'm always the one talking. So yes, we talk about the individual, we talk about tools to enable you. What about all of those people in the middle that can help? Earlier this year, we actually released the capability for you to send us who is manager, who is direct report, and to put them into a group together. So are we at Degreed aware of the opportunity to enable managers and leadership at large? Very much so. And we've already gone into that direction. The challenge I would put to all of you, though, is to take advantage of that opportunity so we can continue to evolve that functionality. We were going to invest quite a bit more in that regard last year, but we held back because people didn't take advantage of that. And so we didn't want to create a bunch of functionality that no one would be able to utilize. And so yes, we will make those enhancements. Being able to partner with all of you, taking advantage of those enhancements, we'll make that even faster.
This is also something I wish we started 3 years ago in hindsight, because it's just, even for those that are focused on how do we now drive even greater adoption, truly breakthrough adoption, focusing on that area creates mini champions that disseminate throughout the organization. So you'll see us push harder quickly.
And I'll add to that to say, I really believe that, in terms of building a learning culture, managers can be the linchpin on that. Probably the biggest comment I hear from people, and we heard it earlier today, is how do we get more time to learn? Well, my manager's not giving me enough time to learn, but I think if managers realize how their employees are building skills and how they're learning and allowing people to build that time into their job and into their daily work, it's going to be huge for how we can progress with how people are learning and building skills at their company.
Yeah, and we have so much functionality that already exists that can be taken advantage of. It's more an awareness campaign. I, with my direct team, create plans, that are private. No one else can see them but my report and myself. And we focus on their skill development. And we're having a conversation every single week, and their skills are front and center. And then I'm able to put items on that plan that I discovered just as I'm engaging throughout the week that they can take advantage of. So yes, there's more tooling that we want to build, but I would also say there's a lot of existing functionality that with the right marketing can be deployed already today.
Got a question here.
Hi. As you go more and more international, will you be integrating more natural language resources for non-US users that our US companies may have? non-US English-speaking users?
Another one for Kat.
This is a cat Q&A. Yes, so first I'll talk about how the platform can handle all of that. Because I think when we talk about internationalization, there's so many different facets to the problem. The first is making sure that those that speak other languages, even multiple languages, have the right experience inside the platform. So the platform is already translated. I think in July we released the ability for you to, one, set your platform language, but also your preferred content language as well. So those types of enhancements are very important. Just how do we provide access when there is a multilingual situation? But then there's the concept of what about the content that's coming in? So I would say yes. We want to ingest even more content that's available in different languages. And along with that is how that content is then represented. Rather than having it be, a course that's available in English and French and Spanish, and those look like 4 different items in reporting, a product enhancement we want to make is having that be one item translated in 4 languages. So yes, we are actively and will always be sourcing great content to be available inside the platform, but I also want you to know about the enhancements that we need to make to ensure seamless experience for end users when it comes to interacting with languages. And so all of those areas are, on our awareness map, and we've already made quite a bit of progress around them, and we'll continue to do so.
I think tying that back to what TJ said, we are absolutely, right now, as compared to the beginning of last year, we have 10 times as much of our business from outside the United States, right? And it's growing fast, right? And I think I said it earlier this morning, by the end of next year, close to half of our business could actually be outside the United States. And that doesn't even get into global companies that are based in the US and of course have employees worldwide. So from a company perspective, we are absolutely committed to not just building a business in the region, not just product features, not just support, everything we need to into the regions of the world that we enter. It is a huge part of our strategy, and we understand that it's more than just bringing on clients and putting people in different parts of the world.
I have a related question over here.
Sorry, these lights are deceptively bright.
I should probably stand up. So hi, I'm Alicia. I'm with TELUS International. I have actually a related question. So I appreciate your approach to globalization and getting pathways in other languages. I think that's very important. But I also want to know what your approach is to accessibility and inclusiveness for people who may be blind or low vision, hard of hearing or deaf, maybe neurodiverse. What kind of things are you doing to improve their experience with Degreed?
Yeah, accessibility is tested every single sprint in the platform. We actually, through a stroke of luck very early on, hired someone who had a passion for accessibility. He was our very first front-end engineer, and that became a part of every single sprint, was testing for accessibility. And so we are fully, WCAG compliant with every single release. We do a regression around it. I think where we have room to grow, though, is the content and experiences that are available to those users as well. Right now, you can't do a filter inside search to find accessible content. That's not a piece of metadata that's coming through. We could better serve, that audience by having filtering that is specific to their needs as well. It's not exactly a language, but it has a lot of similar product needs in terms of functionality. Those that have needs, whether it be, blind or otherwise, they need a different experience with content, and being able to give them access to that content in the most seamless way is where we still have work to do. The platform, always doing work, but how that content engagement happens is where we'll definitely need to make an investment.
And I think there's a lot of our content partners who are ensuring that they're 508 compliant and they're making their content accessible, and so we try to partner that way as well.
Yeah, I think those filters we just haven't exposed yet, but that's a clear opportunity as we go back to that. How do we better be content partners? That's a piece of metadata we could suck in through integration and present as a filter in search.
See if Gina's mic's turned on.
Yep.
I hope so.
Good.
Hi, Gina from BMO Financial Group. And I know all of you are very future focused. and always looking forward. But you're also striking a great balance about meeting those of us who are clients of yours where we are. And so as you look out, let's say 5 years, what do you hope we're asking you at the Lens in 2024?
Why don't you guys take this one first? Give me like 17 seconds.
Man, that's a tough question. I mean, if I think 5 years from now, one of the conversations I had earlier today was like, in 5 years, like, how are you, if your conference is, 12 or 15,000 people, right? How do you keep the feeling that we have in this room here today? That's a really hard thing to do. I know we especially can't put that many people into all the restaurants that we're going to go to this evening, but I would think a lot of it's around just the culture of an organization, because everything we do, right, we treat our customers really as partners. And if you think about even how we do implementations, right, like it all comes bundled with a solution. And so we're an ongoing partnership with you. And so like we like to think we bend over backwards for our clients. But if we're here and we've got 15,000 people 5 years from now, right, like you could be asking me, how are you ensuring that for the next 5 years? Because that's a hard challenge, I think, to continue to keep up with that growth that we have, right? And that's something we think about every day.
Yeah, I think what I would say, I get really excited about thinking about how we're just in our infancy, really, when we think about machine learning and artificial intelligence and the data that we're collecting. I mean, you saw some of what we talked about today, and how, I think Chris actually had it in his presentation, where how much data we've got now to work with than what we had, 3 years ago or 5 years ago. So when we think 5 years out and think about how AI and machine learning will play such a bigger role in how we have data and how we can tell what skills people have, what skills they'll need, and how we're going to be able to really map that to opportunities in the workforce. I think it's going to fundamentally change the way we do work in the future. And so that's exciting. And so you should be asking us about that. How are we keeping up with all the AI and the machine learning and the technology that's moving forward so fast all the time?
Tim Munden, a few months ago when we were together with a group of us, he really actually made me completely lose my train of thought as I was presenting to you all with such a big idea that I realized he was actually thinking bigger than we were at the moment. And it was around sort of what they were just suggesting. It was, okay, but what if now in this room we probably have 12, not in this room, but in the room at the time, 12 companies that represent 2 million employees across X number of industries. What if we all just banded together and said that we will actually accept degreed skill credentials or skill measurements in place of a resume or a degree or whatever? So I bring it back to the original mission of this company, which has a few different flavors, but one that I think is really appropriate is, are we the de facto way that learning and skills are measured, and I'd add, and transacted on worldwide, right? That is not a 1 year thing from now. That is not a 2 year thing from now. We're building to it, and you have a sense, hopefully, from the presentations today, and what I certainly tried to lay out this morning around how we've built it brick by brick. As we execute this last phase, and love your original comment of, look, not every company is yet ready to tackle all of those phases. That's okay. We do believe in time, everyone will be moving through it. I think then we're at the point, which is sort of Kelly's point, which how do we take it to an even bigger scale, right? What are the different things that we can do, not just internal mobility in our own organization, but on the acquisition side, on whatever it might be. Because once we've done that, the efficiencies that we expect you to see inside your company using Degreed will have a megaphone attached to them. And that makes me very excited, but I'm eager for you all to push us there.
Yeah, I think the ultimate success from us 5 years from now will you be here 5 years from now with us? Because that means we delivered on the business value, which could be around skills. Skills, to me, I hope doesn't become like the word of 2020 that disappears. So if 2 years ago it was machine learning and AI, this year, I think some of the folks who I met at HR Tech, it's like the word experience. Everyone's now an experience platform. What does it mean in 2020 to be a skills platform? I hope we can deliver on it, not just be a word. That gets lost in translation. So I think can we deliver the business value back to you? And skills is going to take many different forms for many different businesses. So there's a lot to deliver there, but as you mentioned, and everyone has this, there's still a lot to deliver on just the platform itself. So I've been here 4 years, and when we're here 5 years from now, it'll be, twice as big, and who knows what the product set will actually look like.
Please. Oh.
Hi, this is Yelena from Colgate. So taking 3 emerging themes, right? The skills, the assessment, and the content. Do you have in your roadmap a point when the assessment of the skills is more seamlessly connected to the content that you're offering? Again, from the overall employee experience, it does make sense to have that seamless integration. So do you have that in your roadmap?
Yeah, so that's a fun one, right? Difficulty of content and how we can better personalize when we understand difficulty of content. So if we understand supply and we understand content, there can be better personalization to that end. Very few of you, and even content providers, can tell us difficulty. It's coming in all different forms, if it does come at all, and it rarely comes. So what that then leads to us is we need to do the work for you to infer difficulty. And we can do that, but that is a data density situation. And so I would say if it is important to you to be able to personalize content by skill level and have it then impact and be even more personalized, you need to be making sure you get that full profile of skill. Because as we better understand the people who engage, and when I say understand, the level of skill that is engaging with content, we can make a lot of inference about the content itself by those that engage with it. But to make an accurate inference, you need data density. And so the challenge I would put back to all of you is help us better understand skill, make sure that functionality is turned on so that we can have the best view of individuals as they engage with that content. And then we are going to reach that point of critical mass where we can make those inferences and it starts to reflect back. But yes, we very much want to do that, and we've got some pretty good ideas of how that could work, but at this point, it's a data density problem.
And if I could just add to that, just to say, in the simplest form, if you use self-assessment for, to get an inventory of all the skills in your company and in your organization, that provides the baseline by which we can move forward, and content that can then be mapped back. So I'm saying kind of the same thing, but in a different call to action, just more specifically, try self-assessment with all your employees, get a baseline, and then let's progress from there.
My challenge to the Kat and Jeff and Scott and Eric and the rest of our product and technology teams, we have all the pieces in the place to do what I'm about to describe. When I took over as CEO 2 years ago, I was the COO. I was a level 7 in business management. I was level 3 in product management. I had never had a product and engineering team reporting to me. I learned on my desktop. I never, ever, ever take courses. I very rarely, with some exceptions, actually read a book, but I listen to a lot of books. What do other COOs who are a level 7 in business and a level 4 in product who have this gap in their skill set, during that transition, what do they learn? What's the progression? What do others like me, how have they done it? All those pieces are there, and we're so very close to be able to deliver on that vision. And if we do, it's a combination of all the things we're talking about, but again, the missing piece is mapping everything to the levels. So it's where we're going, and we are very close.
Hello, Dave Weller from TD Bank. Wonder 2 things. Can you touch on your vision for ingesting skill data from other providers and what that might look like? And then secondly, just wondering if you could expand upon the Learn Upon partnership that you announced this morning as well.
Yeah, I'll take the first one. So we know, just as we knew with content, we're not the center of the universe, that there's so many different places that, content exists, but also that skill data exists. So just as previously we have integrated with content, we now have the ability to integrate with skill data as well. This Friday, we have the first release of that. We're partnering with a client here in the audience on it. I won't call them out by name because I don't know if they want me to, but we're partnering with them because they have done an org-wide assessment, and they want that represented inside of Degreed. And so what we've done is just an integration. What that does, I had a slide and roadmap, I shouldn't have cut it, but it shows you on that skill card, what are all of the data points that exist? You might have Degreed self-rating and skill review, but you also might have an assessment inside of Workday. And how can we ingest that assessment and have it represented? So as you see that skill card on the profile, you are seeing all of the points of data that could be a proof point to that level. Not just assessment, but also the way in which you talk about skill. The way that you define product management might be very different than how I define product management, as organizations. And giving you the capacity to represent that description on that skill card is also a part of that enhancement, and that's coming out in November. And so we are working both on how to represent the proprietary skills inside of your organization and what those mean specifically for your organization, and also all of the mechanisms by which you measure it. So I would say if you are already actively measuring skill and you want Degreed to ingest that data, just talk to us because we want that integrated in. And we have mechanisms already in place by which we can do it. It's just an integration. As with any integration, there's configurations, there's figuring out exactly what it means and how that maps. But we'll actively discover that with you, just as we've done with content.
Yeah, exactly. Very analogous to what we've done with content over the last few years.
Yeah, so I'll answer the learn upon question. So it really came out of our customers asking us for a better solution and a better tightly integrated experience between the LMS and our platform. And so, a couple years ago, we did kind of a scan of the market to try to find an LMS provider out there that would really fit in nicely with our solution, both product-wise and also culturally as well. And we landed upon Learn Upon for a couple different reasons. One was our analysts, pointed us to go meet with them. And so, through the last 18, 19 months, we've actually done a number of deals together already before we made this kind of formal announcement. And so we've got 8, maybe 9 joint customers together already that have that integrated experience with both platforms. And so, we're just trying to kind of fuel that with more of a formalized partnership. So, for anyone that joins us in that kind of foray, you won't be the guinea pigs, which is always kind of nice, right? We've already kind of proven out the technology, proven out the support model, and that, and just everything that kind of goes along with it. And so you'll be the benefactors of the other folks that went early on. Now, I will say this: it's not for every customer today. I think probably 9 to 18 months it will be for every client that's in this room could probably seriously take a look at it. It's probably 70% of our client base today that could probably be a good fit. Some of the most highly regulated industries it may not be the right fit for quite yet, as they're really proving out their technology into the high end of the enterprise. So they started out more in the mid-market space and have grown into the mid-market space, into the enterprise space over time. So.
Quick show of hands for those that actually do use Degreed today. How many, after implementing Degreed, did the role of the LMS get wider, or show of hands, more narrow? Sorry, that was a confusing question. I just wanted to see who was listening. After implementing Degreed, did that start to erode some of the ways that you were using the LMS? Show of hands, yes. And at the end of the day, we realized there was core functionality that the LMS does very well, what it was designed to do. Degreed was never going to build an LMS, even though we got that question from almost everybody in this room. And so, but because we weren't actually completing all of the features and functions that you needed, you still had 2 line items, you still had 2 systems, they didn't work very well together. And so we went out, as TJ said, and found a best-in-class partner, and now we can solve for all of those for a big chunk of our clients and create a much more seamless experience with 1 line item.
I think we have a question over here too.
Well, are you considering to create some functionality to provide live training and the management of instructor-led training also?
Wait, did you say provide live training throughout the platform?
So we are creating better mechanisms to integrate with live training. So all of the metadata that surrounds that, having better representation inside of search. We won't create content. We won't be the place in which that happens, but like within the LMS, if that's where you're housing, the information about ILT, or if you're using another third party, just like any other content provider, we'll integrate with it. Where virtual and instructor-led training is different, though, is the metadata that surrounds that. You could have one course that repeats itself on a certain timeline. It could be in person or live, right? There's just different metadata. And what we have a content and curation team, they're actively working on this. It's in their Q4 roadmap, is better representation of instructor-led training inside the platform. How that will demonstrate to all of you is mostly within search. So if someone is going and trying to find one of these courses, they'll see that metadata represented. So being able to see, what's starting within a certain time frame and otherwise, and then having that be one course instead of today what is often multiple, just with different start dates.
The other thing that I've seen a lot of innovative companies do is just, really use pathways to integrate reinforcement of content around instructor-led or in-person, learning. So it actually is in a pathway, and people are on a journey, a learning journey within a pathway where instructor-led is just one of the components, which I think is cool. Okay.
We have a question over here.
We have a discussion. There we go.
Did you want me to go?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, all right. Thanks. Victor Sherman with KPMG Canada. Just a quick clarity question. You talked about the upcoming reporting for the skills. So just to clarify there, is that for the native platform, or is that only for the skill platform? So that's one easy curveball compared to Gina's question. And the second part is you have a knowledge base available for admins. Is there ever a thought to create a small version of that for actual end users, a place to actually put up some job aids so they don't have to look for videos or what have you and pathways on how to do simple things like creating plans and pathways and whatnot?
So to the first question, giving all of you access and insights to the data that's generated in Degreed is vital across a variety of fronts. The first is with learning. So we will continue to enhance the insights and the reporting around learning as part of Core LXP. There's also some skill data that's critical to you making learning decisions that's going to be part of that LXP. And those will move forward. Also the reporting available in the API, all of that is moving forward, just part of Learner Experience Platform. But there's also a deeper understanding, really being able to drill into that skill inventory that's part of the skills product. So when it comes to reporting and insights, we'll be moving forward a variety of fronts. With the learning platform, making sure that you have the insights that you need to make decisions around curation and deployment of content. And then on the skill side, it's being able to drill down and through that lens of demand, see the supply that you have. That's really where there's the separation. But in short, yes to all the things. We're moving them all forward, both in terms of inside the app, our reporting, standard reports and custom reports, and also the API. The second question around how can we better enable, if I understood it correctly, individuals as they are curating to bring in resources, even if they don't have access to manage the catalog. We have an admin enablement team, and they're looking at how could we partner, with third-party storage to enable that. They might have a PowerPoint on their desktop that they want to put in the pathway. They don't have access to SharePoint to upload it. Through partnership with you, could we make that available to them to upload. Whether you're using SharePoint or otherwise, could we make that storage available to end users? That doesn't mean it would go directly to your catalog, right? Because it just belongs to that end user, but you would have visibility into it, and they would be able to add that to their pathways. So that's something that we're actively exploring. And I think how we can make that faster is having conversations around what third parties are you already using to house things, be that SharePoint or OneDrive or otherwise. How can Degreed integrate with that, just as we do a content provider to enable individuals? One of the things that I loved most as we did the PathGather acquisition is they had that ability, that as you were creating a pathway, the little plus button to add something into it allowed you to upload something to one of those third-party systems. And so that's been on our roadmap, and we're just in discovery on how to execute against it.
Hi, my name is Amy Lund, and I'm with Xcel Energy. And I'm going to ask you to switch hats really quickly and ask you, as an employer, hiring a lot of new people and working with employee development and skill sets, what are some of your biggest challenges in your employee development and learning organization?
Inside our company?
Yes.
Ah.
I can throw it out. You want to go? Okay, so I think, just like any company, we are trying to help our employees onboard, build the skills that they need, get the learning that they need, and we have a pretty strong passion around Degreed, obviously, and so we want our employees to be our best models for all of you in terms of how we use it. So we actually have spent some time a lot of time in onboarding. Since we're hiring so many people, we actually put together a cross-functional team where we did all Degreed onboarding and then functional onboarding using our pathways and getting everybody involved in the learning process. So it's just one example of how we think we can help develop our employees through the platform. But we also understand that not all learning happens within Degreed, and so we also provide a certain amount of money to people to go get learning, when they need it and how they want to get it, and then include that into their Degreed profile. So with that, I'll ask Nate, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, the number one question that I get as a manager, of course, is how do I get promoted? What's my next step? So it's helping clarify that and setting the plans in place to do that, but then also making other opportunities available through different projects or different areas, adjacent knowledge areas to put people on different project teams so that they can be rewarded with an expanded scope in that way as well. But that's hands down the biggest thing we get is internal promotions, and whether that's upward or sideways to expand a knowledge base. So putting the plans in place within Degreed would be very helpful with that. And I think some of us as managers do good jobs, and some of us do okay jobs at it. We're also learning.
And skills inventory. I think we're really working on trying to put our skills inventory together as well. Mm-hmm.
I do have this dream. I mean, if you see any Degreed employee, you should ask them on the spot to pull out their phone or whatever and show you how they learn and use the product. We actually do use our own product, it turns out, quite a bit, and base around it. And I actually had this dream goal of us actually applying for an industry or an analyst award as a company, as a learning organization ourselves. And I think some of the feedback you hear is that we've tripled in size in a year and a half. And we're just now getting to the stage where some of these other amazing systems that you all have, we can't plug into because they don't exist. You heard Nate kind of hinting at it, so I think you'll see us do more of that as we continue to grow.
Hello, my name is Casey Johnston. I'm with Ameriprise Financial and just started 3 months ago. And I'm new to Ameriprise as well as Degreed, and I'm responsible for helping our organization adopt the tool set. So I'm just curious to know if you had some kind of out-of-the-box ideas around helping our users adopt the tool.
You want to take that one?
I'll say the one in front of everybody that I said at the end of the cab last night. I have also this idea, which went over well yesterday, of a large virtual client hackathon where we could pick themes, open it up, have virtual sites, get teamed up with people from Degreed and together with our customers, and even folks that are familiar with the tool, even if you don't maybe work with us yet. And how could we actually source from all of you great ideas to drive adoption, to engage managers, to make use of different features and functions. So yesterday everyone raised their hand. I'll just ask, would people be interested in something like that around key themes? And if so, come find me or Kat, and we'll make a list for it. But I think that's where we get some of the best out of the box thinking, is when we just create the space for people to create it.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is, and this is not by any means new in HR, is just to put on a marketer's hat as well. So whether that be individual campaigns, department campaigns, company-wide campaigns, just around learning in general and trying to build that culture, and whether it be broad topics to those specific topics. I think you have to look at yourself not only as a marketer, but then ideally if you have the resources, or you can look to us for resources, is you also have to think of yourselves almost as a publisher, and the different types of content or learning challenges or those things that you can start to expose. I think helps more with adoption too. And a lot of it is cliche, first of the year learning challenges, all the things that a lot of companies probably already do. I think you'd be surprised at actually how well they'd be responded to within Degreed as you market Degreed within your company. And I know there's a lot of different limitations, so I would just encourage you to work with your Degreed counterparts to have them share best practices that's best would fit in your company and your culture, because we have tons of stories to help with that.
Great point. We're being given the way over time signal. So I know if there's more questions, again, we'll be around tonight, tomorrow. Please find us. We also can think about adding more Q&A tomorrow. But thank you to the panelists. You guys can stay up here as I switch topics, but thank you for the questions.
Thank you.